Expansion and Renewal Project Manager. We also will be hearing from Glenn Dennis, the with Edmonton Transit Service, as well as Andrew Gregory with the Edmonton Transit Service. We do have a short presentation for you all today, and then we will have lots of time left over to answer questions. So with that, I would like to introduce Kevin Pringle to kick things off.
Thank you, Miriam. So good afternoon. My name is Kevin Pringle. I'm the Partnerships Manager on the Valley Line. I want to talk briefly about the city's vision and how the Valley Line West fits in before we get into the main presentation on the transit centre. So first of all, we follow our city plan, which has been recently approved by council. This plan guides our work and provides direction on how we'll get to a future city. And that future city has the benefits we enjoy today with new opportunities for the future. It's about connecting Edmontonians in a city which is healthy, vibrant, and sustainable. The plan is not just about spaces and places, but it's also around how we move around the city. And we're building the city so that we can welcome 1 million more people in the decades to come. So it's important as part of that we have a mass transit network that supports our growing city, and the Valley Line is a big piece of this. The Valley Line West light rail transit is the second stage of the Valley Line, and the Valley Line as a whole is an urban-style 27-kilometre line that will connect Millwoods in the southeast to Lewis Farms in West Edmonton. So that's the big picture. Now let's talk about what's happening to make the Valley Line West a reality. So the city's been working hard on this project for almost a decade. From the planning and preliminary design work completed almost a decade ago to land acquisition, site preparation and procurement over the last few years, a huge amount of work has gone on to get to where we are today. We've engaged thousands of Edmontonians who've helped shape the project over this time. And together we've made a lot of progress and will continue to do so. So we're excited to announce that we recently reached another significant project milestone at the end of 2020, and we selected a contractor, Marigold Infrastructure Partners, who will design and build the Valley Line West. So this means we're on track to start construction in earnest this year. We expect the route to be under construction for 5 to 6 years, and we'll have more details on construction schedules going forward. So I want to turn our attention now to the West Edmonton Mall Temporary Transit Centre. So it's important to know the difference. So whilst the main alignment is being worked on, we'll be relocating the Temporary Transit Centre, and that is actually a city-led project with a separate contract with Marigold. So I'm going to hand over to Van now, who's going to cover, who's with our Expansion Renewal branch, who's going to talk us through the actual details of the transit centre.
Thanks, Kevin. Good afternoon, everybody. As Miriam mentioned, my name is Vanafone Fitlathi. I'm with the City of Edmonton LRT Expansion and Renewal Branch. I got a quick few slides here to talk about the current construction project for the Temporary Transit Center upcoming here. So we'll get started. So the West Edmonton Mall Transit Center is a key hub in Edmonton's transit network. Unfortunately, the current transit center at West Edmonton Mall cannot safely function in its current location while construction of the Valley Line takes place. We also recognize that we can't just remove a key transit hub like this for several years, so a temporary solution is required. The West Edmonton Mall overflow parking lot on 90th Ave was approved as the location of this transit center. The location will ensure continuity of transit service in West Edmonton during Valley Line West construction. Transit users will continue to receive safe and uninterrupted service to and from surrounding communities and West Edmonton Mall. In terms of timelines, we recently hired CarMax Enterprises for the construction of this transit center. Construction is set to begin this month, actually starting on May 10th on Monday. This temporary transit center is anticipated to be open and begin operations by fall of 2021. This image shows the construction area perimeter. So we do not anticipate any major impacts to construction of the transit center. There will be limited impacts to the north sidewalk on 90th Ave. As you can see from the photo here, the entrance to that parking lot will be on the east side, and exit from the west access. There may also be some noise and debris, but our contractor is expected to follow all city bylaws. This rendering shows the intersection near 90th Ave and 173rd Street. In the foreground, you can see the signalized intersection in this area, which will safely manage bus, vehicle, and pedestrian traffic. In the background, you can see the transit center and some of its amenities. While temporary in nature, our goal is for the transit center to function like a permanent one, with all the passenger safety and security amenities such as shelters and lighting that ETS customers expect. We will describe the transit center features in more detail in a few minutes. So when the Valley Line West LRT construction ends, the transit center will move back to its permanent location on 87th Ave. The new transit center will be on ground level, and the elevated West Edmonton Mall LRT station will be located above. An elevated guideway will carry the LRT trains along 87th Ave between 165th Street and 182nd Street, separating the LRT from key intersections at 170th Street and 178th Street. At that point, the city will decommission this temporary transit center on 90th Ave, and that portion of overflow lot will be returned to West Edmonton Mall. This is another aerial view of what the temporary transit center will look like, looking west along 90th Ave and a viewpoint east of 175th Street. The temporary transit center will be located as far south on the overflow parking lot as possible, 150 meters away from the nearest residential area. The city has completed road rehabilitation on 90th Ave last year, and we use that opportunity to beef up the pavement on 90th Ave to accommodate bus traffic. One westbound traffic lane on 90th Ave will be used for bus bays. There will be marginal traffic increases as a result, mainly due to bus activity. As you can see, most of the overflow parking lot will continue to be used for overflow parking. More than 1,000 parking spaces will remain in place. The lot is not intended to be used as a park and ride site and will not be promoted as such. I will now turn things over to Glenn Dennis from ETS to continue this presentation.
Thank you, Van. Good afternoon, everyone. As Van said, my name is Glenn Dennis. I'm the Manager Operational Support with the Edmonton Transit Service. I do know that safety and security is very important to everyone, so this afternoon I will be presenting on the features available at the temporary West Edmonton Mall Transit Center. So to start with, we have emergency phones that will be installed and in all accessible locations. There's going to be clear camera views focused on those help phones. The phones are answered within our ETS control center 24/7, and when activated, the cameras are fixed on the phone so we know and we can see what's going on. In addition, the security cameras will be installed as well. There'll be a security office there, which will hopefully attract our security resources when they're available to be there. But the camera themselves, the feeds go directly into the ETS control center again, monitored on a 24/7 basis. When we're selecting sight lines and locations for cameras, they're all reviewed by corporate security and ETS to ensure that the proper placement of the emergency phones and cameras are there, and it's there to eliminate as well any blind spots. ETS also has the Transit Watch line, which is 780-442-4900, and we have recently upgraded this line to accept text messaging. So a person may phone in on a voice call, or if they're not comfortable and something's occurring on the bus or around, they can actually utilize that text feature and get a response. And again, these are monitored 24/7 within our control center. They can transit customers can report either immediate safety concerns, things such as harassment, disorder, suspicious behavior, or activity directly to the control center, and we can dispatch security resources from there if needed. This is not to replace, and I want to reiterate that, that is not to replace a 911 call. If an emergency service is required, that's obviously a 911 call. What we've done as well is we have recently added 2 security guards to the current West Edmonton Mall Transit Center, and they will automatically be transferred to the new temporary site. The guards are stationed there during operational hours, which is approximately 5:30 in the morning to 1:30 the next morning. These guards do provide high visibility, deterrence, and customer service, and they report into our ETS control center. Augmenting that in the layered approach, of course, is the transit peace officers. We have them dedicated to ETS properties. They do patrol 24/7. They are available for calls for service, and they do proactive deployments throughout the system based on intelligence and analytics. ETS has also enhanced safety with the creation of foot patrol inspectors. These inspectors are assigned to specific location to interact with folks, provide customer service, timely service, and also provide a visible presence through the high visibility uniforms, observing and reporting incidents as they occur to the ETS control center. As Van has mentioned, some of the other safety and security features at the temporary transit center include natural surveillance, the open sight lines, and of course the improved lighting on 90th Avenue and lighting within the transit center itself. So I thank you for your time, and I'll now ask Andrew Gregory to share some of the information about service at the temporary transit center.
Hey, well, thank you, Glenn. My name is Andrew Gregory, Manager Planning with ETS Planning and Scheduling. So here to talk about how the transit service will adjust and change with the new temporary transit center. So once the temporary transit center is built and completed, all buses that currently stop at the West Edmonton Mall Transit Center will move to this new temporary transit center. We're expecting this to happen this fall. This will result in route and schedule changes to most routes. However, we're currently finalizing the plans and anticipate that most of the adjustments will only be in the 1 to 5 minute range to minimize impacts to customers. We recommend that you plan your trip in advance by using the trip planner tools at edmonton.ca/transit or real-time tools like Google Maps or Transit app. Once we confirm when the buses will be moving, we will let you and other customers know with on-site notices, signage, information on our website, and any other tools that people use for their trip planning. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody, for that presentation. Very much appreciated. So as we said off the top, we do have lots of time for questions and answers during our session today, and we're happy to answer them. I do see that some were added in to the chat. So the first question that I see from John Kirby: any warming areas at the temporary station for the winter? Andrew, can I turn that to you to answer, or if perhaps there's another member of the ETS team on the call?
Yes, and feel free to jump in, Glenn or Lee. But yeah, we will be having a shelter put in place to similar to West Edmonton Mall right now to help with the winter conditions. It won't be warm to say like a room or a house, but providing some level of comfort when waiting for the bus. But I also want to expand that with the new bus network redesign that we've just implemented. Most bus routes will be running more frequently or during more time periods. So that should help reduce wait times when transferring to your next route.
And Andrew, to be exact, we do have 5 heated shelters strategically placed at the transit center, along with 4 regular shelters.
That's fantastic. Glenn, did you have anything else you wanted to add before I move on?
No, that covered the process. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I see our friends at the Summerley community had a question about the security guards. Are they transit security guards or are they West Edmonton Mall security guards? Glenn, can you answer?
You bet. The City of Edmonton has a contract in place with a private security company. The security guards that we have posted at the transit centers work for the city and through Edmonton Transit. So they're deployed by ETS and they won't be pulled away in any other areas. They're dedicated to that location.
That's great. Thank you very much, Glenn, for that answer. Brian Marcotte has asked, what will the pedestrian connection be like from West Edmonton Mall to the temporary transit center? Van, I'm gonna put that question to you, please.
Yeah, so both 173rd Street and 175th Street will be fully signalized intersections. So they will both have crosswalks that will function to get people across the street to West Edmonton Mall.
It didn't quite, I'm more concerned with the connection actually right into the mall. I'm not familiar with the north side of the mall. And I mean, there's a lot of parking, and there's an overhead structure there as well. I'm just wondering what will be the main connection into the mall. Have you traced that through?
Marion, can you go back to that slide where you showed that overhead? Yeah, so basically, as you can see here, the full crosswalk is in place. So once people exit from their buses, they will be directed to go to either side of 175th and 173rd Street. So basically, the crosswalk will connect you onto an existing sidewalk within West Edmonton Mall land there that you can get into the mall.
Okay. So is there an entrance into the mall, or how far along do you have to walk in order to get into the mall? I mean, I'm not familiar with the back end of the mall. Is there an entrance there? Is that where, for example, DATS will come in? That sort of thing?
I'm familiar with that side of the mall. If I may just quickly jump in, there are entrances that connect from that sidewalk that Van pointed to in that overhead image there that you see. I'm not sure if it's much different from what the existing transit center sort of pedestrian connections are like there within the mall parking lot, but certainly there is that sidewalk that does lead to entrances on that side. I know that in our chat box here, we have a link to their directory, which would show which door numbers. There's so many door numbers, I'm not sure which number that entrance is, but there is an entrance. There's several entrances on that end.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to move to the next question in the line here from Sharon Quickfall, who asked, what is planned to deal with parasitic park and ride in Summerlee? I'm not sure who wants to take that one. I think perhaps somebody from ETS might be able to speak to that. Andrew?
At this point, we'd be monitoring and seeing if there are any issues. Given that the neighborhood is 150 meters away from West Edmonton Mall, it probably wouldn't be the most convenient location. We have a much larger and sizable parking ride at Lewis Farms Transit Center where you can park adjacent to the transit center. So that's where we will be promoting park and ride. But at this point, we'll keep an eye on it and seeing what the situation will be like. And just to clarify the earlier point, we are not promoting this as a park and ride facility. So it is not being encouraged in any form.
Okay, I'm not sure if we have other questions. I did notice that there was a hand raised from the Summerlee community. If they're still on the line, feel free.
Yeah, just a couple of points. I mean, this is Christine. I'm the president, and thank you for those of you who joined today from the neighborhood, and Sharon. So as you know, we've talked about the parking before. We do have some initial discussions that have been going on to do a parking study, but we've been told to hold until the lot is or the overflow lot is actually turned to the transit center. And we really don't have any answers from West Edmonton Mall yet as to what their plan is for enforcement. I kind of think if they don't enforce, we won't see a lot of problems in our neighborhood, but it's the times that they do enforce. And then also the lack of overflow lots during peak times at the mall, we would see an increase as well. So that's something that is definitely work that we want to follow up on as this moves forward. And I think it was Brian, you had brought up the access to the mall, and you know what? That's a really good point. So both of those spots, 173 and 175, when you walk, the one on 173, once you cross the road, there is only one sidewalk on the west, yeah, it would be west side of the road to the parking lot. And even myself, just walking on it, just a single person, when there's cars parked there, you don't have enough room because the cars overhang onto the sidewalk. So there's not really a safe path there. And certainly if you're using a walker or a stroller or anything like that, it becomes even more difficult. And then the one on 175th, there is no sidewalk at all leading to the mall. It's the drive in and out traffic. And as you walk towards the mall through the parking area there, or the roadway, it does a bend, and there's no crosswalks or anything. So while the crosswalks will help on the street for safety, Brian, that's a really good point about how people will access. I guess you could go up the stairs and walk through the parkade, but again, if you're, with a stroller or a walker or anything, that's going to be tough. And it's just a really good point, and hopefully something can be considered with that as well.
Thank you for those comments, Christine, and certainly we will keep that in mind and monitor the transit center once it is in operation and ensure that there is safe access. We know that is obviously a concern of the community and one that we will be monitoring really closely as we continue to work with you. I also just see that there's a question again from John asking if there's any plans to make those crosswalk traffic lights better for connecting transit riders to get to their bus. Van, can you speak to that? I do think that there is some plans around traffic light optimization.
Yeah, we will be retiming the intersection, both intersections for to optimize both bus service and pedestrian walkways. So we have made accommodations for that.
Thank you, Van. And Tammy Bittner has a question. Will there be washrooms at the temporary location?
There will only be washrooms for operators. As this transit center is temporary, we've only made accommodations for the operators only.
Thanks very much, Van. I'm going to put this question to Andrew from John. He says, what will the route be for 205 St. Albert Transit bus?
Yeah, so the St. Albert Transit route will change as well. Right now it operates to St. Albert along 178th Street. So rather than traveling east along 87th Avenue, it will be slightly shorter, travel east along 90th Avenue and connect to other routes at the temporary West Edmonton Mall Transit Center.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I don't see any more. Oh, we got a comment from Sharon regarding parking and Lewis Farms overflow lot. There are concerns about ETS riders using residential streets in Thorncliffe. So yeah, certainly I think, as was mentioned earlier, that's something that we're going to be monitoring very closely as the temporary transit center is in operation. And we'll be monitoring the parking situation there and responding accordingly. Are there any more questions from any of our guests this afternoon, either about the temporary transit center plans or even about Valley Line West LRT? We do have Kevin Pringle on the line. John Kirby is asking, how long is the temporary transit center going to be in operation? I'm guessing is the question there. Van, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, we anticipate this temporary transit center to be at this location for approximately 5 to 6 years. So, depending on how construction of the Valley Line goes, as soon as that permanent transit center is ready, our intent is to move this service back over there.
Sharon's asked, what will you use as a baseline? I think that's in reference to parking concerns. Who wants to take that? Perhaps Andrew?
For the sidewalk on the mall side?
Sorry, it's Sharon's question related to what will we use as baseline in regards to parking concerns.
At this point, it's too early to tell. We'll be monitoring we'll probably do some observations at the beginning to determine, are people using this as a park and ride site? It's not the city's property, so we're not really in a position to enforce or promote. It's West Edmonton Mall, so we'll be working closely with them all. I know from previous experiences and dealings with them all, they have done enforcement on their parking lot and ensuring that it's not being used as park and ride facility.
Thanks, Andrew. John's asking if St. Albert Transit is aware of this change in operations to the temporary transit center location. I'm going to give that back to you, Andrew.
Yes, they are aware of the situation. We're currently working out with them to ensure the details and routes are going to be moving to the new transit center. So right now we're just in the process of working out the details and ensuring that everything will be in place for this fall.
Okay, great. And I see we have a comment regarding sidewalk access into the mall there from Scott Mensink, who says sidewalk into the mall on 175th Street is on the east side of the mall access road into the Bourbon Street entrance, and the sidewalk into the mall on 173rd Street is on the west side of the access road into the Ice Palace entrance. Do we have any other questions or comments from our guests this afternoon?
Yeah, sorry, just back to this whole sidewalk thing. That whole area by the Ice Palace is blocked off now for the car dealership stuff. It's all fenced in now. You can't access there.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, we're obviously the transit center isn't under construction yet. It's going to be soon, and we'll be beginning operations later this year. In the fall is our current timeline. Bill Dowhan had asked, when will the temporary transit center begin operation? So right now we're targeting fall 2021. John Kirby is asking, will the Zoo and Fort Edmonton buses move to this new temporary transit station? Andrew?
Yes, we will be moving those routes as well as all other routes to the temporary transit center. And that way that provides adjacent and surrounding communities with a convenient connection to get to these attractions.
While we have you, Andrew, I'm just going to keep you here because John's got another question. What will happen to the bus stops next to the movie theater on the mall side? Will those be remaining there?
At this point, we haven't made any changes to those yet. We'll be doing a site review after it opens and seeing if we do need to make any adjustments. So appreciate that comment, and we'll take a closer look there.
Okay, and I see Sharon had followed up to her question. Her concerns about parking are not related to the mall overflow parking lot. She's concerned about parking within Summerlee's residential area. Andrew, I'm going to keep you on the spot here. If you could speak to that.
At this point, not really. We'll take a closer look at that as well. And I wonder, maybe like Glenn or Lee, do you have anything to add?
Hi, folks. It's Glenn again. I believe there was somebody from parking within the city of Edmonton the last time we met, and I think they may be able to answer the questions better. So maybe we could take this one away and take some time to look at it and get back to the community.
Hey, thank you, Glenn.
Certainly, we'd be happy to do that. We are working with Summerley community as a city on these issues and have been for some time. So John's asking as well, what will happen if people want to shop or eat at the mall? Then take LRT to the football games or Rogers Place. John, I'm not sure exactly your question. Did you want to unmute and perhaps just clarify for us, please?
So eventually, when LRT is in operation, people will park at the mall like they do at Kingsway Mall and take LRT to Rogers Place or football games. And you're saying that people aren't allowed to park there and take LRT. Am I right?
So you're speaking about once the Valley Line
Yes.
LRT is actually open,
Yes.
not necessarily about this temporary transit center.
Exactly.
Okay, that was where my confusion was coming from. No problem. Okay, Kevin, perhaps you might be able to take that question, or even Van. But I know as part of Valley Line LRT, we are expanding the Lewis Farms Park and Ride, which may help in that regard. But Kevin or Van, if you have anything to add, please do.
Yeah, with regards to the specifics of whether or not people will be able to park at West Edmonton Mall, I think, like we've covered before, West Edmonton Mall is a private entity. It's not city-owned land. We obviously do encourage, like the team mentioned before, park and ride facilities such as Lewis Farms where you can jump on, and the long-term vision will be, connecting with local communities, so you can do exactly that. You can jump on the LRT at one end and take stops as you go and stop off at West Edmonton Mall and then jump back on and go downtown for the games as well.
That's great. Thank you. John, you've just raised your hand. Did you have any more comments or clarifying questions around that?
My hand just slipped on that button.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Do we have any other questions from any guests? Let me make sure I haven't missed any. Don't see any more in the chat. Please do feel free to pipe up. What I will say, it seems things are a bit winding down here. But what I will say is that the LRT Projects Information Center is always available for questions, for if you have comments, if concerns. That phone number and that email address are available for you anytime. The phone number is a voicemail. The voicemails come directly to our city staff in the LRT Projects Information Center, and we will get back to you in a timely manner with answers to your questions. And you can also, send an email there as well. Christine, we have several city staff on the call today. We have a few folks handling the logistics of running the meeting, as well as city representatives from ATS, LRT, the Temporary Transit Center project, and I think that's about it.
Okay, so I'm just really curious how many people we were able to reach to get to this meeting is where I'm going with that question.
Sure. Well, we used many different channels to reach members of the public to participate in our meeting. We used our LRT email list. We used social media, Facebook, Twitter, and we also reached out to many partners and stakeholders along the project as well. ETS also reached out through its channels to members of the public as well. So
no, that's not my question. My question is how many residents, how many non-city people are on the call? I'm just curious because we did a blitz with our newsletter. I'm also curious how people heard of it, if it was through city channels or whether it was through the newsletter and stuff we've done on our website. And maybe that's not appropriate for this venue, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know how we'd get that. We'd have to poll everyone here. I can tell you we had quite a number register for the event, and as these things go, not everyone ends up showing up for the actual time. I know I've done that in the past as well. But as I said, what we are going to be doing is placing this video on our channel so that anyone who wasn't able to participate in our meeting today will be able to view the presentation. And again, if there are any follow-up questions from anyone who is on the call, if you want to follow up on any information you heard today at the session about the temporary transit center, or even about the project as a whole, the LRT project as a whole, our projects information center is always there and able to answer your questions and try to get you the information that you're looking for. I will also say that our website, edmonton.ca/valleylinewest, is a really, really good resource. We've got lots and lots of information on there related to the project, the maps and plans, and even construction notices and that sort of thing. So it seems like, oh, we do have a question from John. Hotel parking, how will that work at this temporary station? John, are you talking about that hotel that's next to it?
Yes, I'm talking about that hotel.
Van, I don't know if you can answer that. I don't know that we would have any involvement in that, but perhaps Van, you could speak to that.
Yeah, you're right, Miriam. We haven't made any changes to their parking lot for the hotel, so that is out of our scope.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Well, I would really like to thank everybody today for taking part in our session. Hope that you did find it informational. I don't know if that's a word, but hope you found it useful and the information, was satisfying. And yeah, thanks again for attending. We will be posting this video in the coming days on our channel. And again, please do feel free to reach out if there are any follow-up questions or concerns, and we're always here to answer those. So thank you very much. And have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miriam.
Thank you.